we need more than people like me to really promote what is seafaring about. They only talk about supply chain. We talk about logistics. Okay, everyone know a little bit here and there, but there is a very big part that's been missing. That is the seafaring, where we carry from A to B. It's not just floating. There is someone driving. We sleep. We eat on the ship. We away from the family. I think these are the things we need to highlight the importance and what they can do, what they can provide, and how they can actually improve from seafaring to free leader, what they can do to the industry as a whole.
Welcome to the Shipping Podcast, where I meet interesting maritime professionals sharing their passion for the shipping industry and their everyday job. I am your host. My name is Lena Gothberg. Hello, Shipping Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 201. I made it. It feels like the Shipping Podcast 2.0. I don't know. Before we start, I would like to thank you for all the greetings received for reaching the 200th episode. It warmed my heart, and it made me realize why I do this again. You, the listener, you make me want to find more interesting people to speak to and broadcast the conversation. I think every conversation matters. So today I'm in conversation with a seafarer, finally. I really would like to speak to more seagoing people. So don't hesitate to reach out if you would like to talk to me. In this episode you will listen to James Foong, a master mariner from Malaysia, talking about what life at sea is like. I hope you will enjoy our conversation. Welcome to the Shipping Podcast. Could you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is James here. I'm actually based in Malaysia. I think Lena found me on LinkedIn. I'm actually maritime professionals. To be specific, I'm actually driving a ship. And I think Lena actually did mention she invited a few people who driving a ship as well. I think shipping industry is very important. It is been proven, especially during the pandemic, where everything has stopped, but shipping does not stop at all. So if you talk about shipping industry itself, the seafarers actually being very unsungly contributing the industry, where I think people who are sitting in the office, in a corporate, who have very little idea what is happening on the ship or even how the ship looks like, you'll be very surprised that not many people actually have the opportunity to visit a ship. So if the pandemic is clear and if my ship happens to be docked at anywhere that nearby, especially like Lina, your place, I would maybe send you an invitation to visit my ship. So you can have a look how my rooms looks like, how my cabin, how the we call it the galley, the kitchen looks like. I bring around the ships because I think people need to know how the life at sea it exactly before, so they can appreciate the life of the seafarers contributing to the industry.
What kind of ship are you sailing currently?
I'm actually sailing on container ships, like the one that you have mentioned earlier. So let me introduce a little bit about my history. I started sailing at the age of 18 on LNG tankers. I was on the gas carrier. So cadet as a gas carrier, junior officers as a gas carrier throughout until I was 24, 25. That was 6 years there. And then I made a mega shift to the liner industry because to me, the liner shipping has a very much impact in the world trade where I really very much interested with. So when I involved with that, I started with the junior officers and until became who I am today. So along the way, I actually met a lot of interesting people working on the ships. So you might be aware that for Malaysians working on the ships is very rare now. And most of the time, I'm one of the only Malaysians happens to work on the ship. So you can know very clearly that, work on the ships, we don't see nationalities, we don't see our races, our religions, when we are at sea, we are all one family, regardless of race or religion.
So why is it rare to see a Malaysian on board nowadays?
I think they are much more towards oil and gas because Malaysia is a gas producing country. And when you talk about oil and gas, most of them they engage on oil platforms or work in the office as well. So those who really engage on the ship, driving the ship, or even as engineers on the ship is very rare now. But I think the local governments they are trying their efforts to promote seafaring industry. Of course, you have to attract the younger generation now in terms of shorter contracts and with better pay. I think they need to talk about more on the salary and the other benefits that they can give as a seafarer. Because I am one of the very few seafarers who actually went to the top of my career, and then I moved to the shore. I work in a corporate world because all the time I've been very admire people who are wearing a tie and a suit, so called as a white collar industry. So we seafarers are considered the blue collar industry. So the blue collar always admire people who are in a white collar. So I took up MBA. I went to Middlesex University. I took up the MBA, thought that I can actually engage with the corporate world. But after I went into the white collar industry, I noticed that this is this is not what I wanted. But at least I tried. So I went back to sea again.
Why is it not what you wanted? Let me know, because I think people have so many, prejudice against both sides of this. So let's talk about that. What's the difference?
Okay, when you work in a white collar from a blue collar, 101% you will assign to a very technical role, in a corporate. You cannot be a HR. You cannot be, something that is not relevant to your job. You have to be a very technical job, which example about ship operation, where nobody knows about what a ship's about in the office, but nothing more than you. So when you work in such a technical role, you have a very busy schedule. Your phone is ringing 24 hours. When I was working in a white collar job, they give me as a safety manager. So I in charge of 10 ships. When I was working on a ship, I only in charge one ship. So when I in the office, I need to in charge 10. So among these 10 ships, they have a different time zone. Okay. So some of the ships in Brazil, some of the ships in Italy, some of the ships in UK. So and I'm based in Malaysia. So you see the time zone is different. So they always said, oh, you work on the ship, you don't have much time spent with your family. I don't think so. Because when you work in a white collar technical role, you really do not have much more time as well. And you get only same annual leave, like 21 days, 22 days per year, same like everyone, but your job scope is different. So imagine you handle ships in different time zone. Your sleeping time is have to adjust. You're shopping with your wife. You have to pick up calls, even midnights. Even your own country, Independence or National Day, you cannot say, hey, ship, sorry, our office closed today. I'm not working. You can't. You have to pick up the phone. Maybe they say the ship is leaking. The ship, we need some emergency assistance. So you need to pick up as far as safety concern, you see. So since then, I took a year working there. Then only I decided I think I need to take a break. I need to think, reflect, is this what I really wanted for the next until I retire? Because I'm only 34. My colleagues are 55 because I think this role is a very senior position. At first, I was quite proud that I'm one of the youngest there. But when I see people like this, I ask myself, is this what I wanted to do for the next 20 years? Pick up calls, reports. So when I went back to ship, I was very happy. I see the sea, I see the dolphins, I drink my coffee, I work few months and I rest few months. I really rested, I don't have to reply emails, I don't have to see anything for 100 days or 150 days for my job. Then when I went go back to sea again, I kind of like this kind of cycle. So, but of course, in order to be that kind of position, I think you need to climb, It seems like the corporate ladder in anywhere you are. So I always tell the younger generation, you need to know what you wanted to do. Instead of, subject to your preference, I wouldn't bias either side, but I think you really need to know. You need to find out here, You need to find out there, and then you can make a decision. So, yeah, that's what I want.
What did you expect? I mean, why did you want to go ashore? What did you expect from it?
I expect wearing a tie, collar, wearing a coat, taking a bag. Because, when we're on the ship, we are only wearing a hard hats and we wear our suits, safety boots, safety shoe. It's a very hectic job. So it's a very dirty job. So people like me, I thought like, okay, I finished my studies, my captain license. I thought one took up MBA so I can contribute the industry. I can go somewhere higher, more cleaner, on my hand. So I thought I can sit somewhere higher in the shore. But I don't think so. I think when you work ashore, you really need to have that passion that perhaps maybe your family needed you a lot. For myself, still healthy, still have passion. I think sailing at the moment, for my case, is still relevant. Yeah.
Because sailing is not for everyone. I mean, being a sailor is not for everyone.
Yes. And the demand is there. That's why you see people are losing jobs ashore. But at sea is demanding. People are keep on recruiting. Where is the seafarers? Because so when the ship is building, we need more people and we need experienced people. You can't just pick up one or two from the university. Hey, yesterday you graduated and now you become a captain. You can't. You need to at least 10 years to become a captain. So I can see that if I stay on, my position will give me more advantages than the disadvantages in the future. Perhaps what they said, if the ships now is moving humanless, autonomous, it can be, but perhaps maybe I have already retired or I can work ashore giving some advice, a technical advice that time. So I don't see there's a losing side if I still remain on the ship, which I think it's one of the very vulnerable role to keep the maritime alive.
So what's the best of being on board a ship?
The best thing, I think, people always say when the ship's alongside the sailors is very happy, the crew can go ashore shopping. I don't think so. If you really stand in our shoe, you will know that actually the ships in port is the most busy time, the most hectic, because we have immigration comes, we have port controls, you have safety controls. So everybody will come and inspect your ships, and you have to keep your ship clean. It's like your house. You have an open house and people come and visit your house. You need to clean your floor, you need to wipe everywhere. So that is a very tiring thing. So people are not aware of that. But of course, there are some people who really appreciate our rest hours. I actually met a few very interesting people in Australia. I would like to take this podcast to give a credits to IMSA, the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. They came and visited our ship. It was a port set control actually. And they told me, they said, we know that you are very tired, because we have 4 or 5 ports calling a week. You imagine 1 week, 7 days, we're calling 4 ports. So it's like 2 days, 1 ports. So we know you're very hectic. We try to do not disturb your sleep. We try to make it fast, simple, So we seafarers are really appreciate this kind of gesture because we come from very far land, we work away from home and we away from family. So, sometimes you work in an office, you said, hey, I want to go back, have a break with my dogs, with my kids. But on the ship, we can't. We are still, staying in the same place for months. So when we arrive a foreign place, we really appreciate it when people say that we do not wanted to find trouble with your ships. We try to, cooperate with you in terms of safety matters. We just have a thorough check and then that's it. So because when the ships at sea, we are actually more relaxed in terms of have more sleep, lesser people operating the ships. Because when you talk about ship is moving at open sea, the minimum meaning we need is the bridge, where we need 1 or 2 officers, and of course with the shift maximum we have 3 officers. So each of them work 4 hours, rotating day and night, and then we have the crew as a watchkeeper as well. So over there we have ample rest hours, and not to mention the engineers. You need only one engineer looking at the whole engine just to make sure everything is smooth. We are talking about the open sea, no heavy weather, no traffic, nothing. So I think that is what we wanted for a seafarer. So when we in ports, we need to many things. We need to pick up the bunker, pick up store, we need to pick up food, then we need to pick up provisions, sometimes immigration coming, sometimes we have crew change. So crew change, we need to do a swab test. Some companies, they still acquire those new crew, new Johnny crew to do swab test at the gangway. So, all these things are going on. So we really appreciate it when we been concerned on the social media recently, especially on the pandemic time. People actually aware about the importance of seafarer. So I think that is one of the starting point that we can look at the very positive way, because seafarer roles are not something new. We are not created last year or last 2 years. It's been there all the time. So you would say people take things for granted. They say, oh, we have our wine, coming from Australia, but you do not know how it actually came. It actually came a long way, from Australia. You loaded on the ships, and some of the very sensitive cargo, we need the officers to check them every hour or maybe every day for the temperature, just to make sure the cargo from one place to another place is in the setting colder or hotter temperature. So these are the efforts that you cannot use robots to look into the temperature. Sometimes we need manual check, you see. So these are the things the seafarers are doing. And I also notice the seafarers are people who really obey with rules. So these are the things seafarers really concerned about. So I don't really notice there are any seafarers who really protest. If you notice, there are only yacht or port workers who protest for lower wages. But if you talk about ships stop not working because of protesting, hardly we are doing that, because we do not have that kind of culture, that kind of mind to protest. We usually obey, do our job, finish, then we go home. So these are the trend I noticed, for the past 16 years for myself as a seafarer in the industry.
So what are the biggest changes that you have seen during your career in the industry?
I noticed that people are actually aware of the language in terms of like, I noticed the Chinese crew. I did observe one of the Chinese cadets. He was 19 years old, joined on my ship. One day I saw him in the library. He was listening music. So I approached him. I asked him a few things, what he have done today, and actually he passed me the earphone. He was actually listening to English audio lesson. So I did notice that even the Chinese crew, they do not say that, oh, I do not know English, I do not want to learn, I just been treated very special. No, he actually took the initiative to learn English, although English is not his first mother language for Chinese, but they still try their best. So I noticed that the younger generation, they're actually trying their best to fit into the community, whereas the older seafarers, they tends to teach as well. Because if you look at the generation today, they are more highly educated. They are university graduates working on the ships. Even they are cadets, yet they are a university graduate, compared to talking about 50 or 60 years ago. Those who are really couldn't find a job ashore, only they will find no choice to work on a ship. But now, no. Now, in China or even in many parts of the world today, if you look at Australia, New Zealand, sorry, as well, actually they have a special academy cater program for these students. When they graduated, they have a ceremony as well. It's just like a normal university graduate. So I think the college is doing a good job. They try to bring this career up so people can actually see this as a professional jobs, instead of like something is people not choosing it because they have no choice. But no, in some companies, I noticed like big companies previously, if you talk about 10 or 15 years ago, we have Shell, Petronas, big gas carrier companies. They really pick the cream of the top people from the schools to engage, so they can choose them to study in this program, and they can sail in their ships like Shells. They have their own tankers, so they'll choose these students from the high school to their university. So I think these are the things people who really look into it very careful. I think these are the very significant changes for now and the future, where people are, you talk about 15 years ago, people like me, when we came out from the university, and now they are actually contributing in the society. Like for myself, I am actually contributing to the Nautical Institute, and of course the Royal Institute as well, navigation, because we wanted to give back what we learned. There are a few types of people in the world, but I would like to be the one that I learn and I share, because when you learn and you don't share, it's like the water keep coming in, but there's no flow, you see. So the water is keep overflow. So in order to fill up the gap of the water, first you need to know how to let it flow, and then you can, absorb more knowledge.
Why did you go to sea? Where did you get the passion for the sea?
Well, my family actually came from seafaring industry. My grandfather was a chief engineer. My granduncle was a chief engineer. My brother is a captain. So we actually, few of us who, for I think for my grandfather and my granduncle, during their time, they came from China to Malaysia. So they are so-called the first generation in Malaysia as Chinese immigrants. So I think during that time, they can't find really much jobs that can really provide better income to the family. If you talk about in the 1950s, 1960s. But if you talk about right now, my brother is actually involved with Shell now, Shell Brunei. He's a master mariner as a superintendent in charge of the offshore vessel. He was a master in offshore vessel. So people with our generation right now, I think we tend to get more inspired from people around us. So for myself, when I see this, I do not have any people younger than me in my family in terms of this career. So what I do right now, I went back to my school, not my academy, but my high school, my normal high school. I give career talk. My school principal invited me to give career talk because I wanted to promote this, because it was once inspired from my family. I think I have that privilege, I have that opportunity, but that doesn't mean other people have that. So I don't think anyone knew what is career at sea about. So I think with my privilege, I need to share. So perhaps people 10 or 20 years later, they'll say, hey, because of James, I joined this career. Hey, because of James, because of your career talk, I changed my mind. Actually, I wanted to become a lawyer. I want to become an accountant, but I become a ship captain today, thanks to you. So these are the things I really.
But do you think that we actually show the young people the career path that you can take when at sea? Do you think that we are good at that?
So I think the mindset have to shift. So mentoring program is there for the Nautical Institute and the Royal Institute of Navigation. Even the Company of Master Mariners, I think they have mentoring.
Yeah, but then you have already started. I mean, if you don't know anything about seafaring, anything at all, how do we catch those young people?
Well, if you'll be surprised, actually, I was invited to the kindergarten to speak to the kids less than 5 years old. In the UK, it's called the Inspiring the Future. So that's a program. So I was actually invited by another friend. He said, hey, you can give a online talk to the kids less than 5 years old in UK. So I said, okay, I'll try, whatever I can. So I think these are the things we need to start from young. And it's not only me. I think we need more than people like me to really promote what is seafaring about. They only talk about supply chain. We talk about logistics. Okay, everyone know a little bit here and there, but there is a very big part that's been missing. That is the seafaring, where we carry from A to B. It's not just floating. There is someone driving. We sleep. We eat on the ship. We away from the family. I think these are the things we need to highlight, the importance and what they can do, what they can provide, and how they can actually improve from seafaring to free leader, what they can do to the industry as a whole.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I just wanted to hear it from you. Okay. It might be me being a land crab who doesn't really know, but I wanted to hear it from you. Mm-hmm. And also I think it's important that we promote the maritime industry as such, because no one knows about us. We are like the Cinderella industry. We are there, but no one knows.
Yes, you're right. So I think that is very important things we need to really talk about. And when we talk about shipping industry, you can notice that it's a very international platform. People like you from Sweden, we can talk with someone from Southeast Asia, and we are talking about the same topic, you see. So we have I think it's a very global topic, a global industry where I think the younger generation, they really can take this advantage to involve and grow themselves in the career for this.
I looked at your LinkedIn account. You have more than 28,000 people following you.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It's all started during the pandemic. So, I always tell people you need to know what you want. You cannot compare I don't compare with other people. So for me, I never compare with other people. In fact, I didn't even knew the followers number existed. So for me, I just posting. I have only one mission on LinkedIn is to get a job ashore. You remember I did mention to you I want to work ashore. I want to work as a white collar industry, wearing a tie, wearing a coat. So I've been posting a lot of things about industry. So I asked myself, I'm only a sailor. How am I able to distinguish myself on such a professional platform where you have CEO, you have founders, but there's no seafarers there. So how? So I try to write things about my job, my achievement. I started this even before now you can see people talk about coaching, personal branding, but I did that few years ago, and it's all from my mind. I always ask myself how, because you need to have the strong why. I always believe you need to have a strong why you want to do this, then you have your own how. You do not have to compare with other people, you see. So I ask myself. I do talks. I used to do talks on LinkedIn Live. I invite professional people. I ask myself, people do not know me, it's okay, but I can be famous by inviting famous people on my show. It's quite a silly idea, but I think it is workable, obviously. So I started a show.
As I am doing now. I mean, I invited you.
Yes. So I did that to increase my visibility. So I asked myself, okay, people do not know me. It's okay, no problem. Nobody know who is James Foong. It's okay. But I'm inviting someone that people come to watch the show because of that person. So I started a show called a Jam Talk, because it's like a James Talk. So I shortened it called Jam Talk series, where I invite people. So I have, I think, around 50 guest speakers. I stopped at episode 50. So that's it. I haven't really continued anymore because I went back to sea. So I started that talk when I was during the pandemic. I actually didn't went out to sea because of the COVID. I didn't able to get vaccination in Malaysia. It was a rush. People are long queue. So pretty much I kind of lost my job actually. Didn't really literally lost my job staying at home. So being an optimistic person, I instead of being sad, disappointed, I try myself, okay, I need to be very visible on LinkedIn because that is how I land my job. I spend an equal times, example, 4 hours on LinkedIn and 4 hours on Facebook. The headhunters will look for me on LinkedIn. It will never look for me on Facebook. I always tell myself that. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. So one day, dreams come true. I really have a headhunted for a job working in the capital of Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur for the safety manager, you see. So that's how I ended up in a white collar job. So after I quit the job and went back to sea, my LinkedIn followers doesn't really increase that much. It's still increasing, but not that much. I think, yeah, I really actually accomplished what I wanted on LinkedIn, honestly speaking. But in order for me to move on, I asked myself, since I have such a big followers, what can I do to the platform? So I try to engage with people on maritime like yourself on podcasts, try to grow your visibility. I think it's a win-win. People wanted to see me, people wanted to see you as well. Then from your podcast, they know who I am, or from my voice, they know, oh, there's a person called Lina. So people are following you for your next podcast, because once they came and listened to my talk before, see. So I think it's a win-win situation. I think this is the collaboration of the modern world today, the media, the power of social media. So I use this platform now with such a huge follower to help people as part of my contribution back to the society, especially to the maritime industry.
I think you should do your interviews with seafarers.
Oh, yes, I did. Actually, I did.
But I mean, to continue them now,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that
I
is
should.
what we need to see.
Yes.
We, the white collar people,
Yes.
the people who are on land, we need to see and hear all about the seafarers and your situation, because there's so many things we need to change, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think one of the interesting guest speaker, I think you can invite him, is Gordon Foote, Foot. He was the ex-Royal Navy serving in a submarine. So we have an interesting podcast talking like this. And I asked him during the podcast about the sewage system in the submarine. How do you keep all the sewage, in the ship, under when your submarine is in the water? Do you discharge your sewage or do you keep them? How do you keep them? How do not have a smell in a submarine? It's an enclosed space. So these are the very interesting guest speakers I have on my talk show, and people really coming in, not to get famous, but really share what they are doing. And apart from seafaring, I actually invited a few very interesting people about hair loss. I have some hair specialists. I have people who pick the garbage on the beach, the importance of cleaning the beach. So these are the things I think I created that kind of community during that time. So I might be bringing them back again to talk. I think people really want to hear, perhaps even some old audiences, they want to hear some updates. What are the things that have changes in the society today?
Do you see many female seafarers?
Well, I am actually fortunate able to sail one ship with the female officers. That was 2008, 2009. And those female seafarers now, one of them I knew was already a chief officer, which is the second in command on the ship. So I think some of the companies, they took this advantage as promote gender equality to have a faster promotion for the female seafarers, where actually it causes some popular opinions among the male seafarers saying that, hey, we are doing the job, the female are doing the job. But why? Because of gender equality, the female have to promote first, not me. And because the female promote first, the company can publish in a newspaper. It's like, hey, this is our company first female captain, our company first female, blah, blah, blah. So uh, there are two sides of the coins. So if you talk about promote gender equality, the male, some of them, they feel they are more deserved for their promotion. And some, they even feel because of company, they want to do some branding, they want to support the gender equality. The female colleagues tends to promote faster compared with the male because they are only minority, you see. So like example, 10 captains, only one is female, but that one female captain can be a social media superstar, overnight because of promoting gender equality. So these are the two sides of coin. I wouldn't say it's right or wrong, but we still need to promote gender equality. But I hope it's not for the sake of that, but it really go with quality. I actually sail with quality female seafarers, and all of them are really hardworking. We don't talk about who is stronger, who is male, who is female, who is older, who is younger. No, because on the ship we are one family.
But what about, I mean, is there a difference working with a mixed crew? It's both men and women. Is there a difference between just working with men in your experience?
I think there are some differences, but because of my rank and position, I hardly I hardly receive any comments from there. During the meeting, nobody is talking. It's like people asking, "Okay, do you have any comments?" Nobody's talking. Then somebody say, "Hey, comments is complaint." Because when you comment something, in the seafaring culture, it's like this. It's like the food, example of food. People say, okay, the food, how's the food this month? Everyone have any complaint on the food? Any comments? No. Because when you say, hey, I have some comments, I think the food is a little bit spicy. I think the soup is a little bit salty. Because when you give comments, the chief cook will think that you are actually complaining his food. You see? Yeah. So that kind of culture is very, very unhealthy. So I try my best to listen official and unofficial meetings. So if you talk about male and female, I think it doesn't really matters much, especially right now, because the media itself has been taking very exposure to every one of us. What is the female can do, what the male can do. And if you're talking about something more than that, like sexual assault and all these things, I very fortunate I do not have any of that kind of experience on my ship. I think as a leader on the ship, you really need to be sensitive enough to notice that, because we are not talking about race or religion anymore. We are talking something which can involve with mental issues, issues as well. As a leader working on international crew, we have all sorts of crew on the ship. We have Filipinos, we have Indonesians, Indians, Chinese. So we cannot say, hey, oh, you are Indians. Okay, you can stand one side, Filipinos stand one side. No, we just can't. You see? So we need to take that not only gender equality, but in terms of other equalities, general equalities have to be there as well in terms of regardless of race or religion.
Yeah, but I also think that there might be something else, like someone who is in a higher rank could take advantage of someone in a lower rank, and that is not healthy for the crew as a group either.
Yeah, actually, it's true.
And it's definitely not healthy for the person who is taking advantage of.
Yes, it's true. So I think the leaders today, especially, I mean, if you talk about on the ship, we really need to take care of that. So what are the key things that we can take as a captain on the ship is when you have a female, example, cadets on the ship, usually I try to arrange her cabin near to the leader's cabin, because the leaders, we have four of us, the chief, two chief and second engineer and the captain. So four of us try to put the females very close to our cabins, just in case if there's any assault, we can actually witness not only by one person but by four leaders. And we actually have to take very much attention on her food, on her health. Maybe she have some menstrual periods coming, how to discharge her menstrual pads. So we need to think of that very rationally. And we have special agenda during the meeting talking about gender equality, reminder to the crew. We have things need to be aware of, sensitive topics about female jokes, sex jokes. We really cannot just, in front of the female, because she is minority. She is one girl living with 20, 30 men and all men, most of them. So I think this have and this usually this female, they just freshly graduated from the school. They most of them living people with the same age. Suddenly they came to a community working with people who are 40, 50s surrounding her. She might not get used to it. So we as a leader, we really need to support her mentally. And of course, if there's anything in terms of emotionally, we need to take care of her as well. Because I always tell every crew, we come to learn. Even though you are a very good crew, you need to learn something, not to learn how to work, but learn how to manage people. I think that is very important, because manage people, you don't learn from the school. I always tell them, you learn your job in your school, but you don't learn how to manage people. So when those crew on my ship working, I never talk about job at all. I say, if you want to talk about job, you talk to the school, because that's where you learn, whereas that's where you get your license, you are being certified to have the license. So I do not want to challenge you on your job, because when I challenge you, I'm actually challenging on your school, you see. So I only wanted to talk to you about how to manage people. I think that is very important, because when you talk about managing people, you are talking about empathy, how to really put yourself in people's shoe. Because people always talk about myself, I want this, I want that. I think that is not very important. We don't know how we can inspire everyone, not only you. I come here because of promotion, I come here because of this, it's all I. We need to talk about what we can do. We can inspire this cadet. We can actually promote career. Perhaps this young girl, one day she might be sitting in the board in the IMO. You wouldn't know. Perhaps she would be the first Secretary General taking over Kitak Lim one day, and she will be on the microphone telling me, hey, what previously was once I sailed with someone called James Foong, all this. So I think these are the things we need to leave as a legacy. When this girl leave our ship, we need to let her have a very good memory, because memories on the ship always last a lifetime. When you still working in the office, you work in a white collar corporate job, you still think about, oh, I have colleagues on the ship. These are the things I actually very focused on at my workplace.
I also see that the young generation, I mean, it could be a young man who's feeling as uncertain or doesn't really know how to do things. So it's important also for the young men to be a little bit catered.
Yes.
And managed, as you say. So did you have a role model growing up?
Role model? At the moment, few people are my role models. Well, one of them is Dato Ahmad Sabirin. He is actually the CEO of the Sirin Berhad, one of the very important innovation bodies in Malaysia. He is the president and the group CEO of that company. And he actually took his time to spend his Sunday morning with me. I went to Kuala Lumpur, stay in a hotel. He actually took Sunday off just to drive to the hotel lobby to have a coffee with me.
Why do you admire him? What is...
Okay, he actually someone who actually evolved very much. He started as a cadet, graduated from California Maritime Academy. It's somewhere very far away for a Malaysian. So he was actually working in US after graduated from California Maritime Academy. And he was a marine ship engineer for a few years. After that, he went to rockets, talking about rockets industry. I saw his photo with Elon Musk as well. Elon Musk, SpaceX. He's talking about that now, and today he's working with this company as a president. He actually talked something much more about rockets, how to actually innovate the Malaysian society in terms of technologies. So I see this guy, he is my role model, not in terms of his position, but in terms of, you must think back, he was once a cadet in a Marine Academy. He was once an engineer working in a dirty clothes, but today he's a group CEO and a president of a very big company, corporate company. So how the shift went through. So these are the things I hope I can inspire the younger generation. I do not want people to know I am only a seaman. I am only a sailor. I only driving a ship. No, I am doing something much more than that. These are the things I need to let the younger generation knows. And somehow I inspire a few of them, and they actually came back to me. They say, "Hey, James, thank you very much. We see your footsteps. We really admire you. I think I want to do what you're doing right now." So I would always tell people I always get inspired by inspiring others. So these are actually a win-win situation. I always tell myself that. So until today, I still inspiring people. You need to do this. You need to do this. You need to open yourself. Do not compare. This is very important. Do not compare, and you have to be very much know what you want to do. So if you see, I do not have any peer pressure. If not, I wouldn't end up career at sea, because career at sea is something that not people knew or even doing this role, because it's very hard for you to find a seafarers in a very large group. They are scattered here and there. So I really being very minority on my job. I knew it's a very high demand. I knew people need me more than I need them. So these are the things, you need to pick up the nuggets, so if this is what you really wanted.
Can we talk a little bit about the crew change crisis? I mean, could we talk a little bit about what happened during the pandemic? Because I think more people opened their eyes to the seafarers and all the hardship that they went through at that time. You just said that you lost your job because you couldn't get the vaccination. So how long were you at home?
I was actually at home for 1 year plus. 1 year plus, yeah. So how it actually started, let me share with you the beginning of the story. It was in 2019. I think it was December time, November. Actually, I texted my wife. I said, something big is coming. Some disease. I don't know what disease is that. I think China, because on my ship we have Chinese crew. So the Chinese telling me that, they have been infected in their areas. So I spoke to my wife. I said, hey, you need to put on your mask. That was December, I think. before Christmas. So I told her, you need to put on your mask. But my wife told me that, oh, it's okay, nobody wearing mask here. Why? Why do I need to wear a mask? So I said something big is coming. You have to buy a lot of masks because the masks were out of stock. And I think in 2020 February, I can't remember when was the time WHO actually announced it is the official pandemic. So everyone is haywire buying, food ration and buying the face mask. So when I was still on the ship that time, and touch wood until now, all the ships I sail during the pandemic, even until now, the recently I came back, we have zero COVID cases on the ship. So I would like to take this opportunity to give credits to all my crew. We actually doing things. We take things very seriously in terms of how to protect ourselves from the pandemic. So firstly, we have a zero visitor policy. So I think you talk about crew change crisis. People right now, especially the HR department, they tends to get appreciate more about the role of seafarers. You might be surprised. Even the HR department are not really much being grateful, knowing the importance of seafarer until they are losing people from there. Losing in terms of they want to get crew, but it's hard. Not people can come out, you see. They always have this word saying you will get appreciated or treasure the things until it's gone, you see. So even the HR side, they are actually start to get appreciate the role of seafarers after they are losing the manpower to man their vessels during the time. So I think it's two-sided coins. During the pandemic, the people actually see the importance role of the seafarers, and the Marine Academy as well. They also see that. They try to do online courses now. If you notice, there are some Maritime Academy, they do online courses. They call it zero body contact program for the seafarers training. So people are trying to cater the interests of the seafarers right now. So
yeah, but also the people who were stuck on board for such a long time. That was horrendous, I think.
Yes, that is a very sad case actually. And I was I was actually affected. I was on the ship sailing for 308 days, 308 days on the ship. It was 2020. I joined the ship 2019, Christmas time, like I spoke to you just now. And I back in August. Yeah. So that was 300 days.
When were you supposed to go home?
Yeah, I supposed to sail for 150, 180 days. It's like 6 months or 5 months. But I ended up like become 10 because the company said, can you stay? Can you stay? Because of the pandemic, we seafarers, regardless of the pandemic or not, we really need to spend time with our family because without any condition, we came out from our family. We work on the ship. So by now, we should go home, spend time with our family. So the company spend a lot of money. They increase your salary. They give you bonus just to make you stay. But I think they out of ideas how to, to have a crew change.
Yeah, I would like to give credit to all the seafarers. I mean, everyone was applauding the doctors and the nurses. I think they did a really great job, but the seafarers were forgotten in a way.
Yeah. So I think this has actually comes to a point where people on podcasts, especially your podcast, previously when I actually looking through your podcast, shipping podcast, I was quite excited to see if there is any seafarers being involved as a guest speaker. I was actually clicking your episode to see there are so many professionals, but where's the seafarers? I think Lina will invite a seafarers to talk about the important seafarers one day. I always in my mind.
I want to. I'm looking for them. So if there are any seafarers listening to this, please reach out to me. My email is hello@shippingpodcast.com and just let me know. You can be anonymous if you don't want to be shown with your name, but do as James does. Tell us the story about the seafarers. I think it's important.
Yes, I think so. I think it's very important because they always say if you found one person talk about one topic, it might not be very influensive. But if you have more than one person, everyone will start listening and say, "Oh, okay, I think this is something is true." So I think these are the very important messages I want to pass to those who are interested in seafaring career. I hope that you can actually find your light in whatever you do, your light in terms of your mentor. You need to find the right mentor. But before you find your right mentor, you need to know what you want. I always tell you, you need to know what you want. Because you do not know what you want, even the king stand beside you. He can't grant you any wishes because you do not know what you wanted. You see? So I always tell the younger generation, the schoolboys, you must know what you want. And you don't follow, don't compare with other people. Don't say, oh, because this guy, because Peter have this, I need to have this. Because John have this, I need to have. No, not necessary. You need to know what you want. And then you find the right mentor to support what you want, you see? So these are my very important messages I can give those who are actually listening to this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Thank you for participating. I really appreciated our conversation. Thank you, James. Keep up the excellent job. I'm amazed at your achievements and strive to be a role model to the young generation. I think it's important. Together we will raise the profile of the maritime industry. I am certain about that. Last week I attended Intermodal Europe in Amsterdam. I had the pleasure of moderating the panel on Women in Container Logistics, Working Lunch. It was a great pleasure, and by the end of that session, we had an interesting discussion about diversity and inclusion with both men and women participating. I will invite the panelists to the Shipping Podcast so you can hear what we were talking about. Now I have an inspiring interview to do, so I must rush. It's an in-person interview, so I need to pack all my gear and get going. Until the next time, from me to you, over and out. Thank you for listening to the Shipping Podcast. Don't forget to tell everyone that you meet that there is a Shipping Podcast available and that they should download it and listen to the maritime professionals who are sharing their passion for the shipping industry.